Nobody in the NFL expected the biggest question of the week to be about a father, not a quarterback. Yet here we are, because the one thing everyone wants to know ahead of Shedeur Sanders' first real NFL start isn't about Cleveland's game plan or Vegas's defense. It's this: will Deion Sanders actually show up to watch his son begin the biggest chapter of his career? On the surface, it sounds simple. A dad showing up for his kid. Something that happens in every stadium. Every weekend, without a second thought. But for Deion Sanders, nothing is ever that simple. Not when every move he makes becomes a headline. Not when every facial expression turns into a viral clip. Not when entire sports networks build their segments around interpreting his presence like it's some kind of political statement. And now, the man who built an entire legacy on confidence, charisma, and never backing down from a spotlight is hesitating to sit in the stands for
Deion
his
admitted
own son.
he
Hasn't made his decision yet. People close to him are urging him to go. Rumors suggest Shedeur would love nothing more than to glance up before kickoff and see his father there. But Deion is torn, not because he doubts his son, but because he knows exactly how the media operates. He knows that the moment he steps foot in that stadium, the game stops being about Shedeur's first start and becomes another week of Coach Prime takes over the storyline. That's the part that hits hardest. A father who wants to support his son is now forced to wonder if his presence will create chaos. A Hall of Fame legend who spent years preparing Shedeur for this moment is now weighing whether showing up would somehow hurt him. It's an impossible choice. One shaped by scrutiny that other NFL families never face. And that's why this moment isn't just football. It's personal, emotional, and brutally revealing. Before Shedeur even steps onto the field, his family is already fighting a narrative they never asked for. But that isn't even the biggest twist in this story. Before anyone can understand why Deion's internal struggle matters so much, you have to understand what this weekend really represents for Shedeur Sanders. Because this isn't just his first NFL start on paper. This is the first time he's stepping into a game that was actually built for him. Not a chaotic emergency, not a scramble off the bench, not a situation where he's essentially thrown into a burning building and told to figure it out. What happened against the Ravens wasn't a debut. It was survival. He entered cold into a hostile stadium behind an offensive line that didn't even know his cadence, running a game plan designed for a completely different quarterback. The fact that he kept the Browns competitive was impressive. This week, but it wasn't a showcase of who he is. Every young quarterback needs but rarely gets. A full week as QB1. Every rep, every meeting, every install crafted around his strengths, his timing, his rhythm, his style of attacking defenses. For the first time since arriving in Cleveland, the offense belongs to him, even if just for a moment. And that changes everything. Because the Browns aren't just giving him snaps, they're giving him responsibility, expectation, ownership, a chance to prove that all the poise and confidence people talk about isn't hype. It's real, it's tangible, and it translates under NFL lights. That's why this start isn't some filler moment in a losing season. It's a pivot point. A chance for Shedeur to establish who he is and how he fits into this league. Whether he's a long-term franchise guy or someone Cleveland will regret not building around. And all of that weight lands on one night, in one city, in one stadium filled with cameras. The type of moment where a father's presence can calm the nerves or ignite a media storm. But the emotional pressure isn't the only thing stacking up around Shedeur this week. Because the situation he's stepping into is far tougher than anyone on the outside realizes. What makes this moment so powerful isn't just what Shedeur is stepping into, it's what Deion Sanders is wrestling with behind the scenes. Because when he was asked whether he'll be in Las Vegas for his son's first real NFL start, his answer wasn't flashy, dramatic, or predictable. It was vulnerable, honest, and surprisingly emotional. Deion didn't say yes. He didn't say no. Instead, he revealed a tug-of-war that almost every parent understands, but almost no public figure ever talks about. On one side, he knows how much it would mean for Shedeur to look up before kickoff and see his father in the building. Not as Coach Prime, not as a celebrity, but simply as dad, the person who shaped his football life from the moment he first picked up a ball. But on the other side is something far heavier, the fear that his presence could overshadow the moment. Not intentionally, not because he demands attention, but because the media turns everything involving the Sanders family into a spectacle. A father being there to support his son should be normal. Instead, it becomes a storyline, a debate, a cycle of unnecessary noise that Shedeur didn't ask for, and that's the part that clearly bothers Deion. The fact that something as simple as supporting your child has become complicated. He even said it outright. He doesn't want to be a distraction, even though he's never done anything this season to create one. He stayed quiet, respectful, hands-off. Yet the narrative of him being too involved follows him everywhere. This internal conflict shows just how unfair the spotlight can be, because Deion isn't choosing between a game and a recruiting trip. He's choosing between his son's needs and the media's constant hunger for controversy, between his heart and the headlines. And deep down, he knows the decision will be analyzed no matter what he does. But while Deion debates his next step, Shedeur has no time for hesitation. He's stepping into a broken offense, a battered roster, and a city desperate for a spark. And the weight he's carrying is about to get even heavier. To understand why Deion Sanders is even hesitating about attending his own son's first NFL start, you have to look at the storm that's been building around this family for years. Because this isn't just about football. It's about narratives, optics, and a media machine that has turned the Sanders name into a never-ending cycle of headlines. Some flattering, from the moment Deion took over at Colorado, the coverage shifted. Suddenly, every move he made, every quote he gave, every sideline moment became a national talking point. And once Shedeur emerged as a breakout star, the scrutiny doubled. What should have been a father guiding his son through the biggest transition of his life was twisted into something else entirely. Words like interference, distraction, and overbearing got thrown around as if simply caring about your child suddenly counted as a violation. And here's the wild part. Deion has barely said anything this entire NFL season. He hasn't demanded playing time. He hasn't criticized coaching decisions. He hasn't inserted himself into Cleveland's quarterback situation at all. But because the Sanders name drives clicks and conversation, the media still acts like he's hovering over the franchise with a headset on. That's the storm Deion is trying to navigate. He knows the cameras will find him the moment he walks into Allegiant Stadium. He knows the broadcast will cut to him every time Shedeur completes a pass or gets hit in the pocket. He knows social media will take a single facial expression and turn it into a storyline. Is Deion unhappy with the play calling? Is he questioning the coaching staff? Is he plotting something behind the scenes? All of this happens even when he says nothing. So imagine being a father who just wants to support your son, but knowing your presence might pull attention away from the kid on the field. It's a no-win situation. If he shows up, people say he's inserting himself into the moment. If he stays home, people say he's not supporting Shedeur. Either way, the noise is waiting. That's why this moment feels so heavy. Because the media didn't just create pressure around Shedeur. They created pressure around Deion's love for his son. Something pure. Something simple, something universal, and they turned it into a storyline with consequences. But even with all the noise, there's something the media can't control. The bond between Deion and Shedeur. That's the one piece of this story they can't spin. And while Deion might be struggling with the optics, the real question is whether he'll let the noise outweigh the importance of showing up. Because as the storm keeps building around the Browns, around Shedeur, and around this first start, one thing is becoming clear. The moment is bigger than football, and the pressure is only getting started. While everyone is focused on the emotion and the father-son storyline, the football reality Shedeur is stepping into is absolutely brutal. This isn't some polished offensive juggernaut waiting for a young quarterback to take the wheel. This is the worst-ranked offense in the entire league, a unit that has struggled every single week to find consistency, even basic stability. And now they're asking a rookie making his first real start to somehow fix all of that overnight. The offensive line has been a nightmare all season, collapsing at the worst possible moments and forcing quarterbacks into survival mode rather than execution mode. That's especially tough for Shedeur, whose biggest developmental hurdle is learning to step up calmly in the pocket instead of drifting backward when pressure comes. But how is he supposed to build better habits when the pocket barely exists? When your instinct to escape keeps getting rewarded because protection breaks down within seconds, it's almost impossible to grow the way coaches expect. Then there's the receiving group. Yes, there's talent, but consistency? Not so much. Drops, miscommunications, sloppy timing. It's been a recurring theme all season. And remember, Shedeur hasn't had real first-team chemistry until now. Timing is everything in the NFL. Inconsistent, and he's being asked to build it in 1 week. Sometimes it disappears entirely, which means defenses can afford to pin their ears back and bring heavy pressure, especially against the rookie. And on top of all that, this first start is on the road in a loud NFL stadium against a Raiders defense that isn't elite, but still has playmakers who can wreck a game if you let them. It's a tough assignment no matter how you slice it. But here's the one thing working in Shedeur's favor. He doesn't shrink under pressure. His confidence, poise, and ability to rise in big moments have carried him his entire career. And if he can bring that same mentality into Sunday, even in this chaotic environment, he has a real chance to surprise people. Because despite the brutal circumstances, one thing remains true. Shedeur has never needed perfect conditions to shine, only an opportunity. And this weekend, he finally has one. What's getting lost in all the noise surrounding Shedeur's first start is the emotional weight sitting underneath this moment, the part nobody on TV ever talks about. This isn't just a young quarterback stepping into the biggest game of his life. This is a son stepping onto a stage his father once owned, carrying the pressure of a legacy that started long before he ever picked up a football. And for Deion Sanders, that reality cuts deep in a way most people will never understand. From the outside, people see prime time, the Hall of Famer, the personality, the celebrity. But underneath all the flash is a father who's been shaping this moment for years. Deion is the one who taught Shedeur how to read defenses at the dinner table. He's the one who put him through late-night film sessions, who pushed him to be disciplined, who taught him how to be mentally bulletproof in a world that rarely gives grace to young black quarterbacks. Every throw Shedeur makes on Sunday comes from a foundation his father built with his own hands. That's what makes Deion's hesitation so heartbreaking. Because the very thing he wants to do, show up and support his son, is the thing he's afraid will hurt him. He's terrified that his presence will overshadow the moment, that cameras will focus on him instead of the quarterback he raised. And the fact that he even has to consider that tells you everything you need to know about how unfair the spotlight has been on this family. Deion said it himself. He never wants to be a distraction. Not because he actually is one, but because the media has created a version of him that doesn't exist. All season long, he stayed quiet. He's avoided drama. He's respected the Browns' process. Yet somehow, the narrative persists that his mere presence is a problem. So now, instead of just being a dad proud of his son, when Deion talked about calculating flying to Colorado like a politician just to watch him coach, everything changed. You could hear the shift in his voice. That wasn't Coach Prime talking. That was a father, remembering the look in his son's eyes The feeling of seeing your child show up for you. That's what's pulling him toward Vegas. Not fame or attention, but reciprocity, love, family. Because sometimes all a child needs before stepping into the biggest moment of their life is a quick glance. In the tunnel, in the stands, in a suite. Just to know the person who's believed in them since day one is close enough to feel. That's the real story here. Not the media circus, not the speculation, not the narratives. It's a father who loves his son, and a son who's about to walk into the fire for the first time. And when you strip everything else away, that connection matters more than anything that happens on the field. What makes Deion's dilemma so intense is that no matter what he chooses, someone will twist it into a narrative he never asked for. If he shows up in Vegas, the cameras will be glued to him. Commentators will dissect every expression, every reaction, every handshake in the suite. Social media will explode with takes claiming he's making it about himself, even though he'd literally just be a father watching his son's biggest moment. That's the reality he's dealing with. Not because of anything he's done wrong, but because the spotlight around his name never fades. But if he stays home, the noise gets even louder. Questions start flying instantly. Is something wrong? Did the Browns tell him to stay away? Is there tension between him and the coaching staff? Does he not believe in Shedeur? The hot take machine turns a simple parental decision into a full-blown controversy overnight. And the crazy part is, Deion knows this. He knows the media storm is unavoidable either way. That's what makes his situation terrible. Feels so impossible. He can't win in the court of public opinion, no matter what he does. What people forget is that this isn't just Coach Prime. This is a dad trying to navigate a moment that should be pure. He wants to be there because he knows how much it would mean to Shedeur. He also wants to protect his son from unnecessary distractions and unfair narratives. That tension, love on one side, scrutiny on the other, is a battle most parents will never have to fight on this scale. And here's the part nobody says out loud. This is the price of being Deion Sanders. Being great, being magnetic, being larger than life. The same qualities that made him a legend are the same ones that now make his presence feel too big in a moment that should belong to Shedeur alone. Yet at the core of this no-win situation is something universal. A father trying to do what's best for his child, and whether Deion decides to sit in the stands,
slip into
stay
the building
home in
quietly,
Colorado, his
or
love and influence will follow Shedeur onto that field. Because some support doesn't need cameras or headlines. It's felt, not seen. As Sunday approaches, the spotlight will fall squarely on Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback stepping into the biggest moment of his football life. But behind all the analysis, predictions, and noise, there's a deeper story unfolding. It's a reminder that even in a sport built on pressure and performance, some moments carry a weight far beyond the scoreboard. Shedeur isn't just stepping into his first NFL start. He's stepping into years of preparation, sacrifice, and belief. Every throw he's practiced, every conversation he's had with his father about reading defenses or staying poised, all of it leads to this moment. Whether he lights up the Raiders' defense or battles through growing pains, this is the true beginning of his journey. And like any young quarterback, he'll be measured not just by stats, but by how he handles the moment. But the emotional center of this story isn't just Shedeur, it's Deion. His struggle to decide whether to attend reflects a reality few people understand. His presence, something that should be simple and beautiful, has become a topic of debate, a potential distraction, a headline waiting to happen. That's the burden of fame. Even pure intentions get twisted into narratives he never asked for. Yet underneath all the noise, the truth is simple. This is a father who loves his son, a father who wants to support him, a father who knows that a split-second glance from the tunnel, from the stands, from anywhere in the building could give Shedeur a surge of confidence. No, coach can manufacture. And whether Deion ends up in Vegas or stays home, that support won't disappear. It's built into who Shedeur is as a player and as a man. When the ball kicks off, the takes, predictions, and speculation will fade into the background. What will matter is a young quarterback seizing his chance, carrying his family's legacy while writing his own. And no matter what happens on that field, this moment will stand as a powerful reminder that behind every athlete, every success, every struggle is a story rooted in family, love, and the courage to chase something bigger.